Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have Jen. Jen has a bomb drop of July 17th, 2021. She has a date of marriage in 1996. She's a clinging boomerang who's a high energy replayer. She said, "My husband is in a midlife crisis. He's having a sexual affair with a younger woman. He's also friends with several other younger women. I get less than the bare minimum. He moved out in July of 2022. So, in other words, he stayed home for that first year, and I'm going to assume he was having that affair for that time. Okay, let's go on. He has told me he no longer loves me and he wants a divorce. He continues to reach out to me to tell me that I pushed him into the arms of another woman because I didn't treat him like a man. We both have lawyers at this point. I'm wondering if it's possible to still stand when you're divorced and if he doesn't want you. Why still reach out if there's no love? I'm so confused." So, if this is a midlife crisis situation first, okay, let's look at it in that context, and let's look at it if it's not a midlife crisis context. I am curious, no matter what, they're going to use excuses about why they're leaving. And not all of them are real, but there are some that are. Some of them that are real might be painful. So he said you never treated him like a man. Is there validity in it or not? Now, I will tend to bias toward the sign of that being one of his excuses and that's not real, but maybe it is. Sometimes that's what happens. Or you did something that you weren't aware of, or you weren't doing something and he didn't feel that way, and he's responsible for how he feels, and you may not have known, but odds are he's just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing if it'll stick. And stick doesn't mean it's real. It means you believe it. You take the blame for it, even though you're not to blame. So I want you to understand that. Next, when you say, why still reach out if there's no love? Do you mean, why is he reaching out because you're describing him as a clinging boomerang? Or are you saying, why should you continue to reach out when he doesn't feel that? Either way, because it's a midlife crisis. If it's him, why is he reaching out? He's a clinging boomerang, and so he's mixed up. He is having an identity crisis, and he wants this, but he wants that. He doesn't want to ruin other people's lives. He doesn't want to feel like the bad guy, but there's this compulsion and this pull, or this addiction toward the limerent affair. And so he can't do anything but go. Even without an affair, there's still a compulsion, an urge to abandon, the need to escape. They're escaping a lifestyle. They're escaping a context. They're escaping who they are afraid they're becoming, or who they are afraid they've been. They are trying to relive and get back to a life they thought they would be, or get on the right track, whatever it is. And they may have been on the right track, but they no longer believe that anymore. Maybe they feel that this right track wasn't for them because they don't deserve it. Each one is a little different, but those are some of the themes that we encounter. So, is it really that there's no love, or is it there that he doesn't think there is? That he doesn't feel there is? What is he supposed to feel when there's a limerent object off to the side from you, pulling in all the attention? His focus is that way. And when I say his focus, I mean chemically, they are telescopic toward that one person, and the peripheral doesn't really matter anymore. They have empathy, in other words, for that one person, but they aren't even able to sometimes tell how destructive they are to their children. While their children scream at them, "You're destroying me." Well, you just don't want me to be happy. They are blind to these other things, and that limerent object, "Oh, are you hurt, dear?" They're perfect, even when they make mistakes. It is a problem that we have in midlife crisis, that they think they love that other person, but it's not real. So why reach out if there's no love? It's that there is love. That's why I recommend standing, and that's why they reach out. They're mixed up. One day they want it, one day they don't want it. One day they realize that it's a mistake, one day they don't realize it's a mistake. They're afraid of the change, but they can't not go forward and make the change because of this compulsion. So they're more confused. He's more confused than you are. Having a lawyer at this point, there's nothing wrong with that. You need to protect yourself. It may go toward divorce. So can you stand when you're after a divorce? Let me ask you, can you stand after you're divorced. It's a personal choice. Is there a law against it? It basically, no. I mean, you want to stand for your marriage, you believe in your marriage, and you believe in that, then do it. Do you have to? Obviously not, because look at all the people that don't. But is there a psychological barrier if there's a divorce? That's just a question I always throw out there, because there might be. And that might be true for some and not for others. So some might get this piece of paper and maybe they were a clinging boomerang and would have been close, and then they aren't. I don't know if that's common or not, if more are that way. But I throw it out there to understand that there might be a psychological barrier. But yeah, you can stand after divorce. People do it all the time. And reconciliation can happen after that point. Some people who get divorced don't really acknowledge the divorce. I know that doesn't make sense because it feels like they've been divorced in midlife crisis, living with another woman or whatever's going on. But I've had some who they don't tell their family. They don't tell other people. The divorce is a secret. And even though they're not living at home, but why? What's the point of that? Sometimes there's just so much shame in it. So you can stand after divorce. You have to make the decision. First, stand to heal yourself. And then think about the decision. Once you're healed, what decision do I want to make? Do I want my marriage or not? And if the answer is yes, then stand. Or look at your situation. The odds are against all of us. I'm sorry. But they are more against a vanisher than a clinging boomerang. So then look at it in that way. Okay, I have a vanisher. There's hardly any that return. And then, or I have a clinging boomerang. Some return. I can't say most return. I don't know if I would say many, because that's a relative term. Many return if you are relating it to how many vanishers return. I do this because I want to change how many return. I'd like to change how many vanishers return too. So if you're not standing, the odds are a lot lower of returning. You need to figure out what standing means for you. It's going to be standing for healing. It's not going to be a focus on your marriage. He tells you he no longer loves you because he doesn't feel that way. In midlife crisis and in depression, and midlife crisis is a depression, even when they're high energy, it's just depression outward rather than inward, and usually depression is an internalization. He's depressed. Those feelings have been numbed, partially by a limerent object, but also by this crisis and by the depression. And there's a hopelessness in depression, so he doesn't know how to get out of it. But is there hope? Yeah, there's hope. It's just, you have to understand the probability that you're dealing with and what it means. It means he's in a midlife crisis. He will continue to reach out for you, and he's going to monster because he's been monstering, telling you that you pushed him into the arms of another woman. What should you do that? You could send a truth dart. You could give him a Gottman eye roll. Gottman eye roll is one of the negative that he sees in couples because it's disdain or even sarcasm. But in this instance, I would go, are you serious? You think it's my fault that you exposed yourself and fell into another woman's parts? Okay, sassy. Or something, though. It's not your fault that he chose, and that is a key word that I like to use with him. You chose to have an affair while married to me. That is not my fault. It will not ever be my fault. You didn't feel like a man. Start acting like a man now. Now, I don't know about that last part. You can validate. You can validate, I'm sorry you didn't feel like a man. I'm sorry you didn't feel that I treated you like a man. Now, that might be something you don't buy. You might say, I'm sorry you feel that way, but you know what? I don't really buy it. And then if you did feel like you were treating him like a man, if it's not an excuse, you can give examples. But the more important part is it has been your choice to have an affair. It is not my fault. It will not ever be my fault. I don't have stupid written across my forehead. So stop telling me stupid things that are about you, not me. and then you leave it. It is not open for discussion. He can start to argue with it as much as you want, defend or um, go on the offensive or the defensive, whatever. Too bad. End of conversation. That is a boundary. We're not going to go with that. Just like Chuck said that he acknowledged having an affair and the next breath tried to deny it. And I did use the, do I have stupid written on my forehead? Because I was shocked that are you kidding? You just said it 30 seconds ago. You admitted it. So don't allow for that. Those are the truth darts I want you to work on. And when you say those truth darts, you use a firm voice and you look him in the eye if you're looking in the eyes, if you're face to face. If not, make sure your voice is firm. It's better spoken than it is written down. So better not in a text, that sort of thing, because I want him hearing the command and authority, firmness in your voice. You're not going to waver. If you need to practice it, do it in a mirror over and over again with different lines. This is how I did it. I practiced. I wrote out scripts and I practiced in a mirror. Okay? Don't let him treat you that way. I hope this is helpful, and I will see everybody in the next question.